is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Andrew Wilson. Our top stories this hour. Tens of thousands of Palestinians flee northern Gaza as fears grow of an imminent ground offensive by Israel. Earthquake victims in Afghanistan desperately await more aid as aftershocks continue. New Zealand's centre-right wins the general election, with Chris Luxon set to become the country's next Prime Minister. Tens of thousands of people are fleeing northern Gaza amid widespread fears of an imminent ground offensive by Israel. Israel's Defense Force says Gazans can safely travel along two routes to the south until 4 p.m. local time, but it's dark now in Gaza and that time has now passed. Palestinian authorities say more than 2,200 people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes in Gaza since Hamas launched its attack on southern Israel a week ago. And the United Nations has called for aid to be allowed into the territory, with reports of a dire need for food, water and other basic supplies. Well, our correspondent, Noor Harazin, is in Gaza for us. Noor, nightfall again in Gaza. It's always a frightening time for the citizens there. What's the atmosphere like where you are?
Well, I am currently at Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital that is located in Deir al-Balah city, which is, this city is in southern Gaza. I am surrounded by media crews who left their offices in central Gaza city and in northern Gaza and came here to take shelter and basically broadcast and go live from this hospital because basically nowhere is safe in Gaza, specifically in northern and also central Gaza city since this morning, and we have been witnessing the arrival of hundreds, not tens, hundreds of people who were killed or either injured in Israeli airstrikes on Deir al-Balah in southern Gaza, which is one of the safe places that the Israeli army asked basically the people to move to. So this confirms that there is no place safe in Gaza. Even during the past 24 hours after the Israeli army asked the people to leave to southern Gaza from northern Gaza, the Israeli warplanes attacked cars with people that were evacuating. And one of the attacks, Israeli warplanes targeted a truck that was full with hundreds of Palestinian families with their children and women. 70 people were killed only in that attack, only in the attack of the truck that was transferring people from northern Gaza to southern Gaza.
Now, no, these roads, these two roads heading south from the northern part of Gaza are supposed to be safe, according to the IDF. Now, their deadline has passed now, so what will people do? Thousands are already displaced, we know that, but presumably there are thousands more staying in their homes.
Well, these roads are not safe even during the 24 hours. As I said before, cars were attacked yesterday and today, and even in southern Gaza, where the IDF asked people to move since this morning, and we witnessed Israeli attacks on Palestinian homes located in southern Gaza. So not the roads are safe, the roads are not safe, and the southern Gaza is not safe for Palestinians. However, this is the life that the Palestinian people basically have to cope with. They do whatever they can to stay safe and to find shelters, and they do in any ways accept what will be happening.
We know that water and electricity and food have all been cut off by the Israeli authorities outside of Gaza. What is the water situation? Is the water running out, or can you still find water in Gaza?
Well, yes, the water is running out, not only the drinking water in the markets, but also the water in the homes where people are using it to wash themselves. Gaza is in a dire need of all of these things: fuel, water, electricity, internet. The Gaza Strip is already suffering a 16-year-old Israeli blockade, and now with this Israeli war between Israel and Hamas, and Israel ordered a full siege on Gaza, stopping fuel, water and food supplies from entering Gaza for the 7th day now. Gaza is facing its worst humanitarian crisis in its history. We barely get electricity, we barely get any water, even the food. People realize that they only have what they have on their shelves in the kitchens.
Noor, thanks very much indeed. Noor Harazin there, live for us in Gaza. Well, let's cross over now to Israel and speak to Ross Cullen, standing by for us in Tel Aviv. Ross, good to talk to you. What's the Israeli army saying about this offensive that many people are expecting?
Yeah, Andrew, just looking down at a statement here from the IDF, so excuse me for reading some of it out, saying that IDF battalions and soldiers are deployed throughout the country and are ready to elevate their readiness for the upcoming stages of the war, with a strong emphasis on significant ground operations, quote. So that is how the IDF characterises it, and it does now really seem that we are in the countdown, if that is how the IDF is describing it, to this imminent ground incursion by Israel into Gaza. It says it's going to be attacking Hamas by air, sea and land. Well, it's had a week of barrage of airstrikes already, so then we can expect an increase in the marine activity by Israel trying to locate Hamas fighters, and also for the infantry and tanks coming in on the ground. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, has also been speaking in the last hour or so. He says as well, quote, "The next stage is coming. We are all ready." So it does now seem, if the Prime Minister is also saying that, that we are headed towards this ground invasion by Israeli forces of the Gaza Strip.
And indeed, Ross, I gather we've heard from Hamas in the last hour or so.
Yeah, that's right, Andrew. Ismail Haniyeh, who's a senior Hamas leader, often seen as the top political leader of Hamas, has had a news briefing, and he has said that there should be no more occupation by Israel. We are not fazed by the ongoing bombing by Israel of the Gaza Strip. We will continue to resist. What is happening, in his words, quote, was genocide by a fascist, criminal and barbaric government in Egypt. In Israel, which he described as a Zionist regime. Now, Egypt he described as a sister country, ready to welcome Palestinians, but only if they were going to go there of their own accord. He said there will be no forced migration of Palestinians by Israelis. That's how he characterised the order by Israel for Palestinians to move out of what the IDF spokesman described as what is going to be an active combat zone, the area in and around northern Gaza. And Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas leader, was saying that there should be no forced migration of Palestinians. He said he was sorry to see that the United States was supporting Israel to such an extent, and some European countries as well. And he also accused Israel of carrying out a psychological war on the citizens of Gaza.
OK, Ross, thanks very much indeed. Ross Cullen there, live for us in Tel Aviv. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says Beijing opposes all acts that harm civilians and condemns practices that violate international law. In a phone call with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he urges the US to play a constructive role in bringing the Israel-Palestine conflict back towards a political settlement. Blinken says the US supports the two-state solution to resolve the issue and is willing to strengthen communication with China. Meanwhile, Secretary Blinken has met Saudi Arabia's foreign minister as he continues diplomatic talks with Arab leaders over the crisis. Prince Faisal bin Farhan condemned attacks on civilians on both sides and stressed the urgency to de-escalate the situation. Blinken's visiting 7 countries in the region in a bid to prevent the violence from spreading. Blinken also met with the Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas and the King of Jordan in Amman on Friday. Our reporter Chen Mengfei has been speaking to Leila Nafa, Director of Programmes at the Arab Women Organization of Jordan.
what can you tell us about the latest, particularly about State Secretary Blinken's visit to Jordan?
Let me tell you, this is a feeling. The moment that Blinken, the foreign minister of the United States, put his foot in Israel, he said, I'm a Jew and I came to salute you. Well, this is not diplomacy. This is not the way foreign policy is run. So I'm telling you this because this is the way they deal with the matter. They don't hide. They don't tell the others. They tell it over the media. I put my foot on the ground where the Jews are establishing their state. But you are a foreign minister of the United States of America. It is not your country. It is not the matter of Jews or not Jews, because there are many good Jews all over the world who are pro-Palestinians. And we know friends from among the Jews. But I mean that those who control the foreign policy in the States, they control it being very close to Israel. They want a policy where they can, as I said from the beginning, take our resources as Arab countries, and they would like this to continue. If there is no tension in this area, people will be controlling the resources. So maybe it is time to thank China. It is time to thank all those who support the Palestinians, because we have heard, we have seen, they are asking for the establishment of a Palestinian state. The Palestinian state is there according to UN resolutions. And this is the solution. We ask for that. China asks for that. Many countries all over the world. Without establishing the Palestinian state, there will not be any peaceful times for the people we live among, and especially in Jordan.
Meanwhile, Jordan's King Abdullah is now heading to Europe to garner support to end the Gaza conflict. CGTN's Adel Al-Mahrouki is in Amman for us. Good to talk to you, Adel. What more do we know about King Abdullah's trip?
It will include 4 countries. He's going to visit Italy, Germany, the UK, and will end his tour in France. The King Abdullah II of Jordan is expected to rally support from these countries in order to try as soon as possible to end all kinds of hostilities over Gaza and seek their support to maintain a safety of a humanitarian corridor in it. The Jordanian king fears that the longer this conflict stretches, it may spill over to the West Bank, which borders his country, and therefore the war on Gaza and in general instability could spread to neighboring countries. Already Jordan has been more or less witnessing daily protests in the streets of Amman and other major cities of the kingdom, all in support of the Palestinians. We're talking about a country that has about 340,000 Palestinians from Gaza living here, as well as around 2 million Jordanians are from Palestinian origins and who still have relatives inside the occupied territory. So this is a country heavily involved and invested in this cause, and therefore the Jordanian king is in Europe to try to, as soon as possible, try to find some ways out of this crisis.
Well, indeed, the Jordanian royal family, King Abdullah and his father, have long been taken the role of mediator in the Middle East, but this is going to be a difficult trip, is it not? This is really a bad situation with very mixed political messages coming out of Europe and the United States.
definitely some of the countries he's going to visit have vocal, clear support to Israel and even mobilized some kind of military support, even if it's not evidential or on the ground yet. But there is some sort of military and political backing to Israel out there. But Jordan, as you've said, is one of the main mediators in this conflict. If we talk regionally, Jordan and Egypt, because of their common territories with Gaza and the West Bank, they have always been playing an influential role. And even the impact of these countries is quite evident and has been confessed by U.S. President Joe Biden, who has just recently said that the White House is working with Jordan, Egypt, and the United Nations to try to contain some of the casualties, to try to have a safe passage for the humanitarian corridor that is standing by in Egypt, waiting for safety so that it can go and help civilians. So definitely, people will listen in these European countries. How much influence will they have on Israel? That's a question that will be still there until we see any signs of that on the ground.
Indeed. Adel, thanks very much indeed. Adel Al-Mahrouki there in Amman for us. You're watching CGTN. Still ahead. Desperation and misery in Afghanistan as thousands displaced by the recent earthquake plead for more aid.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and a bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans? Grey rhinos? And unicorn companies? Make sense of it all with global business, only on CGTN.
I think it should be more global cooperation.
I would like to hear more the voice of the developing countries.
Globalization has lifted more than 1 billion people out of poverty.
The green transition has to happen. It's a necessity.
Well, China and the United States are important powers in the world.
What unites us is much more than what divides us. And I believe China is committed to this agenda.
Join me, Juliet Mann, to set the agenda at these times every weekend on CGTN.
Events have consequences. Words create impact.
One more offensive in a long line of battles that's been ongoing for...
Just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us.
The world today matters for your world tomorrow.
The number of casualties is growing quickly.
Why, this is one of the hardest hit towns in the region.
The world today, every day on CGTN.
Welcome back. A reminder of our headlines tonight. Tens of thousands of Palestinians flee northern Gaza as fears grow of an imminent ground offensive by Israel. Aftershocks are continuing in Afghanistan as thousands of people remain displaced following last week's powerful earthquake. China has been assisting in the aftermath of the disaster, providing funds and essential supplies for refugees. Our correspondent Zmarilai Abbasin reports now from Herat City.
This is the city center of Herat province. Hundreds of tents, families living under the open sky because they are still in fear of another earthquake and aftershock. Just today, another earthquake shook Herat province, and it's been almost a week that it's happening. Some of them say they are already running out of cash, and that's a severe condition that they are bearing.
We have lots of problems. We're dealing with many difficulties. Hopefully the Almighty God solve our problems. I'm an elderly widow with a family of 9 youngsters.
The younger generation, similar to me in age, who's the future of this country, is suffering. Also, the school children are scared.
Beside a dust and sandstorm affected the areas, most of the tents and relief aid services were badly damaged, and the people were not able to live in the area, and Zindajan and also in Rubati Singhi districts. More than 300 villages are either partly destroyed or totally destroyed. And the recent report from the governor's office says that more than 1,000 people were killed and more than 2,000 others were wounded. Most of them are under treatment.
We thank China. They have always stood alongside the people of Afghanistan in tough times. As I mentioned, the scale of the disaster is larger, and Afghans have been affected in many aspects. Hundreds of villages were affected. Indeed, China has been providing cash assistance. Again, we ask the Chinese to stand with us Afghans.
The search operation still continues, mainly in the epicenter of Zindajan district, where 14 villages are totally destroyed. The China International Development Cooperation Agency also announced a 30 million yuan of aid that will include tents and other materials which are needed as an emergency relief for the people in different parts of Herat, including the epicenter in Zindajan district. Ismail Abbasin, CGTN, Herat City.
New Zealand's general election has been won by the opposition centre-right. Results counted so far show Chris Luxon's National Party has 40% of the votes, with the incumbent Labour Party taking just 26%. Mr Luxon only became an MP in 2020. He's expected to form a coalition with another right-wing party. Australians have decisively rejected a referendum to enshrine Indigenous rights in the Constitution. The public was given a choice on whether Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people should have a dedicated parliamentary advisory body to influence legislation. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says it's not the outcome he wanted. US Republicans have picked Jim Jordan as the nominee to lead the House of Representatives, but the hardline Conservative, who is backed by Donald Trump, appears to be well short of the support needed to seize the Speaker's gavel. Republican infighting has left the House paralysed for close to 2 weeks as lawmakers remain deadlocked over a successor to Kevin McCarthy, who was forced out earlier this month. Chilean President Gabriel Boric has arrived in China's southwestern city of Chengdu to attend an event that's been dubbed Chile Week. He'll also take part in the 3rd Belt and Road Forum in Beijing next week, marking the 10th anniversary of the initiative. Chile was one of the first countries to support Belt and Road Initiative, China's global infrastructure development strategy. Stephen Perry is chairman of the British Business Association, the 48 Group Club. He says the Belt and Road Initiative can benefit the whole world.
It seeks to move, bringing the goods, investments and everything else from the Pacific to the Atlantic and down through Africa. And if you take those 3 areas, which BRI connects now, there was no train from China, except the Trans-Siberian Railway, into Europe. It was only into Russia, down into Africa. Now you have trains going in every direction, thousands of them. If you have inequality, you have struggle. If you have a sharing, you have the ability of people to live with each other. And China grasped that a long time before anybody else. And that's what BRI is based on, is sharing the benefits of the Chinese system with all the other countries around it. There'll be some problems along the way. Some countries will try to make grabs. Some countries will try to put barriers around their borders. But overall, the benefits that come from sharing, that's where Xi Jinping is brilliant. Just that one word, community of shared future. It's the future.
A new megaport north of Peru's capital Lima is expected to open by the end of next year. Chinese firm Costco Shipping says construction has reached the halfway stage. Our correspondent Dan Collins reports from the fishing town where the port is being built.
Building a future as an export hub for South America. A huge initial investment of $3.6 billion is being made into the Shanghai megaport. Its backers say the pier and a tunnel for trucks carrying containers will soon become part of a trade hub, opening the door to the Asian marketplace.
The opportunity that this port gives and the window of opportunity that it opens for Brazil to go to the Pacific through here is enormous. Brazil's production, Brazil's exports, and the fact that part of it is coming here means that there will be a demand for labour services, and that is what Peru needs.
The megaport, part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, is a private joint venture between Chinese state-owned conglomerate COSCO Shipping Ports Limited, with 60% of the shares, and the Peruvian mining company Volcan with 40%.
Still under construction, the Chancay megaport is projected as being South America's gateway to Asia. Just north of the Peruvian capital Lima, the eventual deepwater port is expected to be able to offer a huge reduction in travel time across the Pacific Ocean.
A journey that often takes 45 days may be cut to around 2 weeks once the port is operational. Its builders also claim it will be the first South American port to have the capacity to receive bigger ships with 18,000 containers in full load. As Peru's economy grows below expectations amid lower investment in mining following anti-government protests earlier this year, the port is being seen as a lifeline for flagging growth. Peruvian government hopes Chancay will become the primary hub for maritime trade between China and South America.
Vamos a hacer una plataforma exportadora.
We're going to create an export platform, and the advantage of having the Chancay port is that it will allow us to have a more direct connection with China. So what we hope, and what the specialists say, is that a lot of maritime trade will be transferred and will start to be done through Peru.
But not all of Chancay's residents are in favour, as the port's construction has turned the fishing town of 60,000 people upside down.
Porque Chancay en el puerto es una bahía pequeña.
Chancay is a small bay that over the years has developed economically with fishing, agriculture and tourism as a growing economic activity. But this port is killing all these activities in order to impose itself.
In the big picture, China's maritime Silk Road will soon span the Pacific. A direct sea route connecting Chancay with China, Peru's largest trading partner, could help revive this country's sagging economy, once one of the fastest growing in Latin America. Dan Collins, CGTN, Chancay, Peru.
Now, in a rare celestial treat, right now, millions of people across North and South America are experiencing a so-called Ring of Fire eclipse. Those are the pictures coming to us right now, scientifically known as an annular solar eclipse. It happens when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, creating the effect of a fiery ring around the moon. This was the view from the Valley of the Gods in Utah just moments ago. Anyone lucky enough to see it will have to wait until 2046 to see the next one. In a moment, my colleague Juliet Mann will be here with the agenda in this week's show. She's talking cultural collaboration with Academy Award-winning art director Tim Yip. That's the agenda, right after the World Today at 16:30 GMT here on CGTN. Now the headlines again. Tens of thousands of Palestinians flee northern Gaza as fears grow of an imminent ground offensive by Israel. Earthquake victims in Afghanistan desperately await more aid as aftershocks continue. And New Zealand's centre-right wins the general election with Chris Luxon set to become the country's next Prime Minister. And that is the World Today. Thanks for watching. There's more news on CGTN Europe's channel, on the Telegram app, or scan the QR code on the screen to get stories and updates sent direct to your phone. More news at the top of the hour. For now, from all of the team in London, goodbye.